So, good evening, everyone. My name is Bonnie Cham, and it's my privilege to have been the chair of the board of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba over the last year, and to welcome you to our annual general meeting. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. I note that we have quorum, and so we will proceed at 5 o'clock. Jewish Foundation of Manitoba acknowledges that our organization benefits from being on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. This land is now known as Treaty 1 territory. The statement that we make today acknowledges not only the land, but our responsibility towards reconciliation regarding past harms. Now, for a few housekeeping matters. First, please note that this meeting is being recorded. We're all, of course, Zoom pros by now, although there's sure to be a few glitches. So to ensure that the meeting runs as smoothly as possible, I ask all participants other than board members to please remain muted and turn your video off. Please feel free, though, to submit any questions you may have directly to the moderator through the chat function. Questions will be addressed following the adjournment of the meeting. Voting will be conducted in the same way as last year's AGM, which is how we also conduct voting at our Zoom board meetings. When voting on a motion, I will ask voting members or board members to raise their hands only if they oppose the motion. And now to our 2022 AGM. We're delighted to be able to deliver a recap of the JFM's 2021 year. Hopefully, at this time next year, we'll be able to host our 2023 AGM in person. Until then, of course, the good news is that Zoom does allow members of our community to attend easily and from the comfort of your homes or offices. I've looked at the registration list of this evening's attendee, and it is a good feeling to see such a strong representation from our community organizations. Again, many thanks for taking the time to join us as we look back at the Foundation's 2021. So our first formal order of business today will be the approval of the minutes of the 2021 Annual General Meeting of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba, held on June 16th, 2021. An amendment to these minutes, since they were circulated, does have to be made, as Laura Diamond did attend the 2021 general meeting as a guest. Now, may I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the 2021 Annual General Meeting of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba? Jeff Lieberman, did I see you indicate that you were motioning for that? Thank you. And may I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Stephen Hyman. Any opposed? Just scanning my screen. I don't see any hands raised in opposition, so the motion is carried. And it's now my pleasure to invite our CEO, John Diamond, to present his report. John, you're on mute. One of those glitches.
There we go. Should have known by now. Thank you, Bonnie. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this year's annual general meeting. How can the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba best support our Jewish community? How can we continue to help encourage the community's growth, maintain the high level of stewardship our donors have come to expect, and still be innovative and forward-thinking? These questions underscore everything that goes on daily at the JFM. We know that we must evolve as the world does, and that there will always be more ways we can help, be seen, and be leaders for the community. In 2021, we took a productive and proactive stance in this regard, looking inward and beginning a strategic refresh. It is often difficult to see fully something from the outside perspective when you are on the inside day in and day out. Focus groups made up of people in our community from all of its corners gave us insight into the areas of what we do that may be missing or unclear to the community. Identifying these opportunities to better ourselves as a foundation allowed us to develop a plan moving forward that ensures our focus remains the same while still expanding what we do and who we serve. Our refresh touched on 4 themes: our undesignated funds and what they do, the benefit of organizational endowment funds, how the public sees us, and how we can support pockets of our community that have been less engaged with the foundation. Some opportunities have actions that already the community sees. For example, the rebranding of our undesignated funds, now named Community Impact Funds. A digital version of our 2021 annual report will be sent to all attendees later this week. And in it, you can find a full review of what these community impact grants did for our community last year. You can read about how those grants supported, how they helped the organizations, and how the organizations can in turn help their constituents. I've said it several times before, but I think it warrants repeating. Calling these funds undesignated painted an unclear picture of their value and purpose in our community and the effect they have on our organizations. After many rounds of discussion on how we could best name those funds to explain what they do, we zeroed in on community impact. It can be broken down as simple as a constituent asking, what do these funds do? Well, these funds provide grants which have direct impact on organizations and individuals in our community. Other themes we have identified are not yet seen by the public, but are on the horizon, with planned initiatives such as increasing JFM's presence at community events as they begin to reappear, website upgrades, and educational parlor meetings for our community members. This is only the beginning of a refresh that realigns ourselves with our goal and mission, helping the Jewish community. 2021 was a very successful year at the JFM, with 81 new funds opened, $5.7 million in grants were distributed, and we started on a path to ensure that we continue to be the pillar of support for our community for 2022 and beyond. Thank you very much. I'll turn it back to you, Bonnie.
Now that I'm unmuted. Thank you, John. I would now like to introduce Dan Langstein. Dan is the treasurer of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba. Dan chairs our audit and finance committee, and he is now going to deliver the 2021 financial report. And I just want to note that Travis Muir from PwC, representing our auditors, is also in attendance at the meeting.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'd like to first look at the PricewaterhouseCoopers PwC report of the independent auditor on the summary financial statements as of December 31st, 2021, which should be coming onto your screen shortly. PwC provided the unqualified opinion that the accompanying summary financial statements of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba, the foundation, are a fair summary of the audited financial statements. This means that the statements are fairly and appropriately presented without any identified exceptions or qualifications. On behalf of the JFM board, I would like to welcome Travis Muir of PwC, who is in attendance today, as Bonnie mentioned. Travis will be available to address any questions specifically for the auditor. Thank you to Travis and his team for their fine work in conducting the 2021 audit. Let's now turn to the summary statement of financial position, which some refer to as the balance sheet. Looking at the assets, the foundation had a good year in terms of investment performance, returning 12.66% before fees and 12.49% net of fees. As of year-end 2021, the investment portfolio equaled $160 million. The general community and its organizations provided $3.3 million in new contributions. Based on investment performance and contributions, The growth in JFM's assets during 2021 was 9.6%, from 148 million to 162 million. Growth is not just for growth's sake. Growth allows incrementally more dollars to be distributed to the community each year. There were noteworthy returns in certain asset allocations in 2021, particularly the S&P TSX Composite Index Fund at 25.21% and the US Passive Equity Fund at 25.27%. Infrastructure and real estate returned 15.77% and 15.9%, outperforming their benchmark returns by almost 9% respectively. Realized gains were up significantly from 2020. Now let's look to liabilities and net assets. Looking under current liabilities, the decrease in grant commitments and distributions payable was primarily due to the decrease of flow-through payable balances during 2021. Flow-through commitments vary from year to year and are based on donor activities. The encroachable funds payable is the market value of the deposits of two organizations who maintain beneficial ownership of these deposits, subject to certain call notice provisions. Looking under net assets, we see that at the end of 2021, the operating fund surplus was 15.5 million, of which approximately 10 million was comprised of realized investment returns. Therefore, the foundation declared 9 million of the surplus as residual income and capitalized that income back to the endowment funds effective January 1, 2022. This was the largest capitalization in the foundation's history. The reserve fund was at its board mandated level to provide 2 years of uninterrupted distribution during periods of adverse market conditions. Now let's turn to the next slide, where we see the summary statement of operations, also known as the income statement by some. Looking under revenues, we see that the $102.4 thousand increase in custodial fees, which resulted from the growth in the market value of the portfolio and movement of some allocations, for example, the PIMCO Global Fixed Income Fund, to active management for a full year. In addition, dividends doubled over the previous year and realized gains on disposal of investments increased by $4 million. Total operating expenses, including administrative expenses and amortization, aggregated to just over $1.8 million, $140,000 higher than the previous year. This increase in year-over-year comparison of expenses was primarily due to increased investments in technology and cybersecurity. Grant commitments in aggregate were $350,000 higher than the previous year due to organic growth in primarily the designated funds. The formerly named undesignated grant commitments, as you know, have been rebranded as Community Impact Grant Commitments. Since 1964, the JFM has distributed $83.9 million to the community. Please visit the JFM website to view both the full detailed 2021 financial statements and the previous year's statements and detailed quarterly investment reports. In closing, I'd like to thank Ian Barnes, the JFM CFO, and his team for their dedication and fine work throughout the year, and with PricewaterhouseCoopers in the preparation and audit of these financial statements. As well, I want to thank the members of the Audit and Finance Committee for their time and excellent work. Should you have any questions, please address them to the moderator using the chat function at the bottom of your screen, and they will be addressed following the adjournment of the meeting.
Thanks, Dan. As you can see, 2021 was once again a very successful year for our foundation. Now, may I please have a motion for the approval of the financial statements of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba for the year ended December 31st, 2021. Thank you, Lainey Bocott. And may I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Jeff Lieberman. Any opposed? Scanning my screen. I see no hands raised, so the motion is carried. The next order of business is the appointment of JFM Auditors for 2022. May I please have a motion to appoint PricewaterhouseCoopers as the auditors of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba for the 2022 fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. Thank you, Dan Weinstein. May I have a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Laura Diamond. Any opposed? Again, scanning my screen. Seeing no hands raised in opposition, the motion is carried. So we've now arrived at the chair's report. This first year of my time as board chair has truly flown by. And despite not being able to set foot in the JFM offices very often thus far in my tenure, I've still gotten to see from my home the behind the scenes workings that make the JFM what it is. The JFM operates as it does year after year, with the public eye only seeing the end product when there is so much more under the surface. One of these things bubbling beneath the surface that I'd like to point a bit of light toward is the role of the committees and their extraordinary members. The night the federal budget came out this year sticks out in my mind. As always, Ian Barnes, our longtime CFO, was on top of everything and had the foresight to be ready for the new disbursement quota rules that the budget introduced and had the answers to all the questions that would come up. But that night, one finance committee member emailed the entire committee to advise us about the new rules for foundations for disbursement quotas, what that may mean for our planning going forward, and how that may affect the foundation. His passion and commitment to the foundation to let us all know came outside of the normal cycle of what we expect from our committee members. It just showed that even when the committee is not actively meeting, its members are still thinking about the foundation and looking for ways to ensure we can thrive. A similar thing happened with our investment committee this year as well. A few members of the committee took it upon themselves to prepare a spreadsheet looking at the pros and cons of certain funds in an investment class in order to assist their fellow committee members in some upcoming deliberation. We hope that we can inspire this kind of commitment from our committee chairs, and we know that our staff are likewise committed, but having committee members consistently put in this work outside of meetings really is a testament to our volunteers, and we are most appreciative. I hope that these two instances give you some insight into the volunteers supporting the foundation year after year. Although both examples come from this year, this level of commitment and care is not limited to only 2021. For many community members, it's their first introduction to behind the scenes work at the foundation. It's a jumping off point and a critical and necessary level of engagement. As we look forward, we know that this engagement helped us have a tremendously successful 2021, and combined with the ideas that have been generated through the strategic refresh, we anticipate continued growth and innovation. I'd now like to spend just a few minutes with a snapshot of the highlights and milestones of 2021. We granted over $5.7 million to programs and services that benefit the Jewish community as well as Manitobans of all backgrounds. Distributions this year from organizational endowment funds reached $1.38 million and went to 31 Jewish charitable organizations who hold organizational endowment funds with us. Over the past 5 years, this total has increased by 96%. We saw 81 new funds opened in 2021, including 11 bar and bat mitzvah funds and 7 women's endowment funds. Our Women's Endowment Fund saw $57,000 granted to support organizations providing care and support for women and children in need. Our Seniors Transportation Initiative provided $49,000 to Jewish agencies providing safe transportation for our community's seniors. 61 students in our community were awarded scholarships exceeding $155,000. This year, 8 new community members became Endowment Book of Life signers. Sandra Kaplan, Miriam Cohn, Dorothy Kotler, Ian Rabb, Donnie Stern, Harriet and Alex Zimmer, and Jeanette Zimmer each generously made a commitment to leave a lasting legacy in our Jewish community through their stories and planned endowment contributions. All of this information and more is in the JFM 2021 annual report. All attendees here will receive a digital copy via email this week, with the physical annual report mailing happening later this month. And now I'd like to just take a moment to introduce our staff. Part of what makes the JFM operate as smoothly and efficiently as it does is, of course, the wonderful staff. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce them. You have already met John Diamond, the CEO. Ian Barnes is our Chief Financial Officer. Marla Arnovich is the Director of Operations and Grants. Patty Boerman is the Director of Administration. Stephanie Kazar is the Director of Development and Gift Planning. Laurel Hogan is a Donor Development Associate. Linda Jayal is our accountant. Josh Kerr is a Marketing and Events Associate. Pamela Nuke works in Donor Services. Drew Unger is our Director of Marketing and Communications. Jennifer Wood is the Manager of Information Technology. And I would like to extend a huge thank you to all of the staff from myself and the entire board of the JFM. So the next agenda item is the Nominating Committee report. I will present this report as the chair. The nominating subcommittee for 2022 was comprised of myself as chair, Dan Blankstein, Steve Croft, Uri Kraut, and Jeff Lieberman. As a baseline, we had two board members who were leaving the board. Carolyn Kiva tendered her resignation effective December 31st, 2021, and we thank her for the diligence and conscientiousness she showed to the JFM. Justice Frida Steele will retire from the board as of June 16th, 2022. Frida is also retiring from the Grants Committee, which she chairs, and we thank her for her enormous contribution. The nominating committee recommends that the following people be elected to the board of directors: Bruce Kaplan, Svetlana Chechelnitsky, and Leah Craven. Accordingly, I would now like to move, as the chair of that committee, that the slate of board members being elected this evening, as I've outlined, be elected to the board of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba. And I'd like to ask for a seconder for that motion, please. Alex Serebnitsky, thank you. Are there any opposed? Seeing no hands raised in opposition, the motion is carried. I'm very pleased to be welcoming these three people to the board. They are impressive individuals, each bringing unique skills to the board of the foundation. Thank you for agreeing to serve, and we look forward to working with you. In addition to the elected individuals on the board, there's also one non-voting member appointed by the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg, and I'm very pleased that Gustavo Zentner will be continuing in his role as the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg representative to the board. So with the election of the new members, the board of directors of the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba for the 2022-2023 year is as follows: myself, Bonnie Cham, Dan Blankstein, Lainey Bocott, Bruce Kaplan, Svetlana Chechelnitsky, Leah Craven, Laura Diamond, Sharon Gozer-Tritt, Stephen Hyman, Uri Kraut, Daniel Levin, Jeff Lieberman, Alex Serebnitsky, Daphne Shore, Richard Yaffe, and as mentioned, Gustavo Zentner. Now, as I've mentioned, we do have two board members who are not returning next year. Both of you, in your own way, have been an integral part of our foundation, helping us to do what we do at a consistently exemplary level. We want to thank you for your generosity, knowledge, and hard work. Our most sincere thanks go to Carolyn Kiva and Frida Steele. Caroline first sat on the Grants Committee in 2013, increasing her involvement over the next few years and eventually joining the board of directors in 2017. She has contributed her time and wisdom during her tenure on the board and often helped us clarify in our discussions what the important issue really was. Frida began her involvement as a volunteer with the organization by serving on the Governance and Nominating Committee in 2011. She joined the board of directors in 2013. Frida's clarity of thought and commitment to the mission and vision of the foundation made her the ideal person to chair the grants committee during the early days of the COVID pandemic, a time when organizations faced a need for funding, sometimes just to ensure organizational survival. Both of you have dedicated countless hours and evenings to the foundation, and it would be a challenging task indeed to tell the story of the past decade at the foundation without your names attached, and we'll miss both of you. So we have come now to the end of our agenda for the AGM. I'd now like to ask for a motion to adjourn the annual general meeting. Thank you, Sharon Tripp. I declare the meeting adjourned. Once again, a huge thank you to all of you for attending our AGM. We've all spent much of the last year on Zoom, and we appreciate you spending a little bit more with us this evening. I'm now going to take a few moments to see if we've received any questions and to review those that have been submitted. Again, if you would like to ask a question, please click the chat function at the bottom of your screen and direct your message to the moderator. And we'll give everyone just a few moments. If we were all in person, this would be the time to turn to the person sitting beside you and share a few niceties. It's just so artificial on Zoom. So I'm afraid that we can't have that part of the meeting. Well, it would appear that there are no questions tonight. And so I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Please keep safe and healthy. We wish you all a wonderful summer. To the new board members, please remember that we have a short board meeting using the current Zoom link commencing right away. So don't go anywhere. And thank you to everyone else for attending.